Hi guys, this is Wim from Belgium. You know, after listening to several theories about the flat earth and the spherical theory, I thought, well, they are both right, but how can we combine them? And then one day I had an idea, a possible solution. I'm not saying it's true or not true, but it's a possible solution. It's a very simple one, but at the same time very, very scary. Listen up. Okay, we are going to start with the spherical theory. So, it's simple. We take a ball and we call it Earth. We surround this ball with another ball and we call it the plasma belt. Then we take the sun and we let it shine on the Earth. The Earth is giving a reflection on the plasma belt. And on the plasma belt, we see our own reflection. The reflection is, surprise! The moon. What do you mean the moon is the reflection of Earth? What do you mean? Where are all the rivers and the forests? Yeah, but let's suggest that Earth is 1,000 times bigger than we are told. Then the moon is a reflection of a gigantic big Earth. So, let's move over to the flat Earth. It's simple. We take the flat Earth and we zoom in into the moon. And then we see all those circles, the so-called asteroids impacts. Well, let's suggest that one of those asteroid impacts is a flat Earth. That would mean that we are surrounded by other biosystems. So, if this theory is correct, now we understand why Antarctica, the so-called Antarctica, the snow wall, is being militarized. We are afraid of other biosystems attacking us. It's like in the series Game of Thrones, where there's a gigantic ice wall protecting us from invading species. So, when you hear another story about aliens coming from other star systems, well, maybe they won't be coming from other star systems. They might be coming from planet Earth. Maybe on one system you have the humanoid species being dominant. Maybe on the other biosystem you have the reptoid or the insectoids being the dominant species. And when you hear the story of Jules Verne, when people are going to the middle of Earth and they discover a totally new world, maybe there are tunnels here on Earth where you can reach other biosystems, and instead of going to the center of Earth, you are going to another biosystem. So, why would they not be telling us this all? Well, maybe the elites are thinking, well, our population is not ready for this information. They will panic when they know that we're not alone on this planet. Well, for myself, I would rather hear the truth than being lied to all the time. So guys, what do you think? You know, what I'm saying here is not the absolute truth. It's a suggestion. It's a good idea, it's creative, so let me know what you think. If you think it's pure madness, no problem, I can live with that. But I think there's some good ideas in it. What do you think? Here is part 2. I would suggest fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a heavy ride. Okay, people will say, well, this theory, it's not real. What are you going to do with a solar eclipse? Okay, I will explain solar eclipse to you. Watch this. Before we go any further, I would like to remind you of the theory of Plato, the allegory of the cave. In fact, we think we see something, but we really see shadows of the real world. So, first we take the sun, then we take the earth. We create the plasma belt. On the plasma belt, we see the reflection of the sun. On the plasma belt, we see the reflection of Earth. The reflection of the sun is shining on the Earth. So everybody is thinking that the sun is shining on us, but in reality, it's the reflection of the sun that is shining on us. So, what is a solar eclipse? A solar eclipse is the reflection of the Earth. The so-called moon is blocking the reflection of the sun. If Obama would be standing before the mirror and his mirror image would block the sun behind him, and he thought that the guy in the mirror was someone else, he would say, "Hey, this guy is taking away my light. Please move aside." But in reality, it would be himself, his mirror image, that is blocking the light. Now, I will take you one step further. It's even more crazy. Listen to this. Okay, but now we have one giant problem. One side of the earth has been lit by the reflection of the sun, but the other side is dark. How is that possible if the sun is shining there? And then I remembered from our good friends, the Nazis. They had a cult of the Schwarze Sonne, the black sun. So I thought, maybe our sun is black. That was a gigantic idea, and I will explain it to you. Well, the old theory is, you have darkness and the light is shining in the darkness. What if this theory was wrong? Let's suggest that there is black light and white light. And white light would be the inversion, the reflection of black light. So if you have a black sun shining and it mirrors in the plasma, it could become white light. So white light is the reflection of the black light in the plasma belt. So when you are standing outside at night, the black light is shining on you. I know it sounds crazy, but let's assume that water is reflecting black light and is turning it into white light. Plasma is a form of water. So, if the black light is shining at night on the earth, the black light will be reflected by the water on the earth, and it will become white light. That white light will reflect on the plasma belt. So if you look in the sky and you see all those white dots, that could be all water worlds on a gigantic globe. So the stars would be a map of the Earth reflected on the plasma belt. So, and what star would be the Earth? Well, it's quite simple. There is only one star that is not moving. That is the polar star, Polaris. So when you see a time lapse of the stars turning, that means that the Earth is turning, and at the center stands Polaris. So I looked on the internet for a photo of Polaris, and I discovered one, the best possible resolution. So I took Polaris. I made it a little bit darker, and then I took the flat Earth. Oh my God! This is not true. Yes, I guess it is true. We are Polaris. We are the reflection. Polaris is the reflection of Earth. If we could take a gigantic telescope, we could see ourselves mirrored on the plasma belt. So I really don't know if you're still sitting in your chair. You might be lying on the floor, laughing or crying, I don't know. Maybe you say, this guy is nuts. Okay, no problem. But I'm afraid I might be right. Sleep well, my friends. Hello. In this video I will prove that the moon is a reflection of Earth. And secondly, we live on a gigantic ball. I came to this conclusion by assuming Earth is enclosed in a big mirror plasma ball. Give it a thought. Let's create a plasma ball. Put Mr. X into it. Mr. X is looking at himself. Let's spin Mr. X. This is what he is seeing. Put a light source on Mr. X. Now let's speed up the moon and put it next to Mr. X. But I have a problem now. I had to speed up the moon. Here are the moon phases for 1 month. And here for a year. Conclusion. The light needs 30 days to turn around the moon. And it takes only 24 hours to turn around Mr. X. If the moon is the reflection of Mr. X, how come the difference? Let's ask Mr. Einstein. It's all about the time dilation theory. Give me a minute to explain it to you. You have a light clock with 2 mirrors in the opposite direction and the light beam bouncing between the mirrors. So, you take 2 light clocks. One light clock is standing on the Earth. The second one you put on a spaceship. When the spaceship starts flying, the light beam will have to cross the distance the spaceship is flying. Therefore, it will take longer for the light beam to go from one mirror to the other. The faster the spaceship goes, the longer it will take, and therefore time will slow down in comparison with the clock on the ground. Here you see a computer image. The red ball is going faster, but time is slowing down. Here we see Mr. X turning, and we see his mirror image turning faster because it is on the outside of the circle and Mr. X is on the inside. On the left we see Mr. X experiencing real time. On the right side we see the mirror image slowing down due to time dilation. Mr. X sees himself in slow motion. Left, the Earth, right, the Moon. If the reflection of Earth is 30 times slower than Earth itself, that means if Earth is 5 billion years old, we are looking at the image of Earth being 170 million years old. Has life already started? So, if you take a telescope and you look at the Moon, you probably won't see any humans running around. Now I will prove to you that we are living on a greater ball. What if Mr. X would wonder, hey, I'm always seeing the front of my face. How would the back of my head look like? Is it possible to see it? I would say yes, but we have to play a trick here. I will put a fly on the back of Mr. X, his head. What would the fly be seeing? It would be seeing the same light movements, but from the back. So let's take the little ball theory. Let's take the United States. Let's presume that the USA is the front side of Mr. X. Then we take on the opposite side of Earth, we have Europe, and we would make that the fly side. So, what would the United States see as their reflection? They would see this. And what would Europe see as their reflection? They would see this. They would be seeing different moons. But everybody is seeing the same moon. Therefore, we must be all on the same side. But now we face an even bigger problem, because if the moon is our reflection and we are all at the same side, we are all at the same moment in darkness or in daytime. To understand this, we have to put the sun into the equation. What is the sun? Well, for this I'll make a hypothesis. You don't have to agree, but it really makes no difference for the rest of the theory. So, you have the plasma ball being heated up by an outside source. The ball is heating up and forming a blister, a ball with heated plasma, boiling and turning around and shooting solar flares. So, Mr. X is sitting in the plasma ball, spinning around, and he will see the sun. The first time he will look straight into the sun. This will result in this image. Mr. X cannot see his mirror image because he is looking straight into the sun. But Mr. X will see the sun a second time. The moment when he is with his back at the sun, he will see the reflection of the sun in the plasma belt. So Mr. X will see this image. So, if I make an animation of this, this is the result. Now, if Mr. X thinks he is looking at the moon, he thinks, look, the sun is turning around the moon, or the moon is turning around the sun. Or if Mr. X realizes he is looking at his mirror image, he thinks, look, the sun is turning around me. Wrong again. Now I will analyze this image. I did a little experiment with real footage. So I have a spotlight. I have Mr. X cut out, and I have a mirror. When you are filming from the standpoint of Mr. X, your reflection is in total blackness due to the backlight. But when you are looking on the front, the face actually is receiving light. When I'm using a bowl, you can see it better. Here the reflection of the light, the reflection of the bowl itself. So you see, the bowl is receiving light from the reflection from the mirror. So what I'm trying to say here is, the reflection of Mr. X is in darkness, but Mr. X himself is not in darkness. So when you see the reflection of Earth becoming black, that is because of the backlight. This does not mean there is no light shining on Earth, aka the moon. So Mr. X is receiving light 2 times. Once from the front when he looks into the light, and the second time when the light is reflecting in the plasma ball. This results in this model. Watch the little crater moving around. So why did I put a crater in the ball? I was observing the moon's surface and I thought, meteorite impacts? No way. Now, that's more like it. But then you need air. Another reason to reject the idea that the moon is a rock in space. So let's take one air bubble and compare that with the moon craters. So let's take that air bubble again, replace it with the flat Earth map, put some water into it. You see that the North Pole is the eye of the vortex. Put that on a bigger bowl. And then you see low tide and high tide. So now we end up with this. We have a bigger Earth, a small crater, and 2 suns. But we still have a problem. If you watch carefully, you see that one part of the crater is in constant darkness. So let's go back to the moon. Here you see the images of the moon, but the moon is stabilized. Here you see the unstabilized movie. You can see that the Earth is wobbling. It's going up and down, up and down. So let's go back to Mr. X. Mr. X is spinning around, but he is also going up and down. The sun is below him, above him, below him, above him. Now you see the sun is above the crater. The top side of the crater is dark. Now the sun is below the crater and the low side of the crater is in darkness. Here you see the total image. Let's presume a drone is hovering above the crater. It would be seeing this. Now look at the upper side of the crater. Darkness, light. Now the downside, light, dark. So one part of our biosphere is receiving daylight from the reflected sun, and the other part of the biosphere is receiving daylight from the real sun. So, what would be winter and summer? I think the moon is making 3 movements: spinning, wobbling, and I think the 3rd movement is slightly moving from its position. To be absolutely sure, you have to study the moon for 34 years to have 1 year in real time. Here I move Earth closer to the sun on one side And now on the other side. Winter on one side, summer on the other, and vice versa. Here is the end animation. Instead of wobbling the earth, I had a higher light and a lower light. That would give the same effect. Now we have the final question. Where exactly on the moon is the earth situated? To examine this, I have taken one movement of the moon and I have lit up the dark side. So I can check out the movement. Now I can draw two lines wherein the earth is moving. The bottom and the top. Watch the black spot on the right. Now I can put a red line between the blue lines, so that is the axis on which the craters are moving from dark to light. Only on this axis you have craters with the day and night of 12 hours. So on the left you see the white spot. That is crater Copernicus. On the right side you see a black spot. That is called Mare Crisium. So let's take Google Maps and zoom in. On the left you see crater Copernicus, and on the right Mare Crisium. So you have to draw an axis between those two. Then we will zoom in and look for planets. Oops, what is that? Exactly on the place. I was looking for some craters. That could be planet Earth. You see this. What is it? At first I was thinking, well, it's a cover-up. But now, when I looked at it for the second time, I see that they are actually changing the shadows. You see, shadow on the right, shadow on the left, shadow on the right. Look at the smaller ones there. Are we living in a big hole or a small hole? I'm not sure. Time will tell. That's it. Now you can reject the idea of the plasma ball, or you can accept it. If you accept it, you will wake up on a bigger Earth. If you reject it, you can keep on dreaming of space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the New World Order Enterprise. Its continuing mission to invent new worlds, to destroy our lives and our civilization, to sell more lies than anyone has done before. In my previous video, I debunked the moon being a rock. Now I will debunk stars and planets being rocks. Let's begin with this image. On the foreground you see planet Earth, and on the background a freeze frame. Freeze frame of a night sky turning on its axis. Center, right and left view. Compare that with a photograph of a ball in the mirror. Of course, because we are situated on the ball, we will only see a part of the reflection. So we have a double reflection. The moon is the total image, and the stars are a closer, detailed reflection. So if I'm right, the star map will fit exactly on the moon map, thus they are both the reflection of Earth. So when I looked at the star map, I decided to take Orion as my anchor point. And the main reason is the 2 times 3 points. So I took a plastic foil and I copied the silhouette on it. After looking a few days, I found a match. I'll show you where. It was exactly where I suspected it, in the tape. There it is. The only problem was that the 2 times 3 points were fitting, but the 4 corners were slightly deviating. That might be due to the reflection on the plasma ball. Of course, I have a starting point now, but I need some more proof. But what I did notice, to my surprise, is that Orion was close to the Milky Way, and the place of my Orion was near a ridge. So I suspected that the reflection of the ridge is actually the Milky Way. So let's look again at the pictures of the freeze frame of the nighttime sky and think of it as a reflection of Earth, aka the moon, with a giant rock formation on the side, from bottom to top. So, from this point, I will search further for some more clues. Near the star system of Orion, you have the star system of Taurus. Well, you have a lot of craters there, but which one to choose? That's difficult to tell. But then I saw this picture, the sign of Taurus, and in the horns you have the Crab Nebula. And I had noticed on the surface of the moon a very strange anomaly, very strange form. It almost looked like a crab. So I found these Hollywood scientific pictures too good to be true. So I decided to quit the Hollywood science fiction scene and look for some amateur images. These images aren't tampered with. So I found this one and I put the 2 images next to each other. Play a little bit with the levels in Photoshop and you get this result. So next you have Orion, Taurus and the Crab Nebula, and on the right of Taurus you have the Pleiades. So the distance between Orion, Taurus and the Pleiades is approximately the same, so it was fairly easy to find it. So I take a close-up of it and put a photograph of an amateur next to it. So we got Orion, the Crab Nebula and the Pleiades. So what's next? Well, on the left there you have Saturn. That would be interesting to find a planet. So let's move up from the Pleiades. Well, that looks like an interesting crater. I can almost see Saturn from the top. But how on earth could this reflect in this form? Stuck again. So at that point I decided to make a 3D model. It's a crater in a crater and at the bottom a bowl. Let me show you the result. Okay, let's put some light in it. I would say, Eureka! Here is your planet. The bottom bowl is forming a light ball. And the two craters are forming the rings round Saturn. I don't know about you, but that really knocks me off my chair. So let's move on. Next in line would be Sirius, a very important star, easy to find. So if you take the 3 little stars of Orion, approximately 5 times to the left you find Sirius. Sirius was a very important star for the Egyptians. By observing Sirius, they could predict the movements of the Nile. So, let's take the 3 little stars and move to the left. Damn! Or maybe it's another one, a bit deeper. This one is called Sulpicius Gallus M. Or this one is even bigger. Let's go back to the small one. So I found this picture of Sirius. Play a little bit with the levels, so you get this. So I cut up the continents and I played a little bit. Still no proof, of course, but we're getting close. But then I got a lucky break again. I found this picture. Especially the 2 at the bottom. This is mind-blowing. Take a look at the entrance and the 2 sidebars. The 2 notches at the side and the center point. The same for here. The entrance, the core point and the 2 notches at the side. So now I can say that Sulpicius Gallus M is Sirius and probably our biosphere. You can also see some smaller craters that might be Sirius A, B and C. You can also see there is a passage. Antarctica is the doorway to the bigger Earth. I also have to admit I made a mistake in my previous videos. I stated that Polaris was planet Earth. So I have to take that back, sorry. So now I know where Sirius is, I can start making triangles. The left star of the Orion constellation is called Betelgeuse. Here you see a picture. So when you make a triangle with Betelgeuse and Sirius, you get Procyon. So you have the gateway, the center and the sidebar. So now we have Procyon, we can find Mars. Let's zoom in. Here is the close-up and with a photograph next to it. You can see the polar cap. Observe the snake-like line lying next to Mars. I think that's responsible for the snake-like shadow on the ball. Here you have the Barnard Nebula. Here we have Sirius and the Seagull Nebula. So, what are galaxies? When you look closely, it's like a moon crater seen from the side. If you flip this one over, you would have a galaxy. And why spiraling? That's because of the movement of Earth. So, that's as far as I got. I don't know about you, but I have enough evidence to believe that we're on a bigger ball. Of course, there will always be people who will deny it. If we were in the Middle Ages, I would be on the fire stack now, burning alive. When I see the reactions on my previous video, I think we're in deep trouble. Thanks for watching.